Today, we'll be reading from Psalms chapters 1 and 2, which open the book of Psalms, by contrasting the way of the righteous with the way of the wicked, and by pointing us toward God's rule and blessing. Psalms chapter 1. Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. But not the wicked. They are like worthless chaff, scattered by the wind. They will be condemned at the time of judgment. Sinners will have no place among the godly. For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction. Psalms chapter 2. Why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? The kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord and against his anointed one. Let us break their chains, they cry, and free ourselves from slavery to God. But the one who rules in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. Then in anger he rebukes them, terrifying them with his fierce fury. For the Lord declares, I have placed my chosen king on the throne in Jerusalem, on my holy mountain. The king proclaims the Lord's decree. The Lord said to me, You are my son. Today I have become your father. Only ask, and I will give you the nations as your inheritance, the whole earth as your possession. You will break them with an iron rod and smash them like clay pots. Now then, you kings, act wisely. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with reverent fear, and rejoice with trembling. Submit to God's royal Son, or he will become angry, and you will be destroyed in the midst of all your activities, for his anger flares up in an instant. But what joy for all who take refuge in him. Let's take a moment to reflect on what these Psalms reveal about the way of life God blesses and the place of trust in him. Psalms 1 and 2 stand at the entrance of the book of Psalms and serve as a doorway into the entire collection. Together, they introduce two foundational truths. Psalm 1 presents two distinct ways to live, while Psalm 2 reveals the sovereign King who reigns over all. These Psalms remind us that life is shaped both by daily choices and by God's ultimate authority. Psalm 1 begins by describing the blessed life. The blessed person is not defined only by what they do, but also by what they choose to avoid. This person does not follow the counsel of the wicked, walk in the path of sinners, or sit among mockers. Instead, their delight is in the law of the Lord, and they meditate on it day and night. God's word becomes the steady focus of their inner life. This person is compared to a tree planted by streams of water, yielding fruit in its season, and whose leaves do not wither. Everything they do prospers, not because life is effortless, but because it is rooted. This image speaks of stability, nourishment, and endurance that come from continual attention to God's instruction. In contrast, the wicked are described as chaff that the wind blows away. Their lives lack permanence and direction. They will not stand in the judgment or belong among the righteous. The psalm concludes by affirming that the Lord watches over the way of the righteous. While the path of the wicked leads to ruin, God reveals that life is not morally neutral. He distinguishes clearly between these two paths. Blessing and fruitfulness flow from delighting in his word, while rejection of his way leads to loss. The central truth of Psalm 1 is that the Lord knows and watches over the path of the godly. Psalm 2 widens the focus from personal life to global authority. It opens with a picture of rebellion as nations rage and rulers conspire against the Lord and his anointed. They seek to throw off God's authority, believing they can rule independently. Yet this rebellion does not threaten God's reign. God responds with calm authority, declaring that he has established his king. The psalm then speaks of God's decree. The king is appointed by God and given authority over the nations. He rules not because humanity permits it, but because God has willed it. The psalm closes with a warning and an invitation. Rulers are called to serve the Lord with reverence and to submit wisely. Resistance to God is shown to be empty, but refuge is offered freely. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Together, Psalms 1 and 2 present a unified message. There are two ways to live, one rooted in God's word and one that resists his rule. Delight in God's instruction leads to stability and life. God watches over those who walk in his way. At the same time, God reigns over all nations, and no human power can overturn his authority. While rebellion leads to loss, trust leads to refuge. The spiritual significance of these psalms is profound. Psalm 1 speaks to personal choices and daily faithfulness. Psalm 2 speaks to God's sovereign rule over the world. Together, they reveal that God governs both individual lives and history itself. True blessing is found not in independence from God, but in trusting his word and submitting to his reign. At the heart of Psalms 1 and 2, God's message is clear. He shows the way of life and watches over those who walk in it. He reigns over the nations and establishes a king according to his own decree. Resistance to him is futile, but trust leads to refuge. Blessed are those who delight in his word and take shelter under his rule. Thank you for taking this time in God's word. May these psalms guide your thoughts toward trust, faithfulness, and delight in the Lord.